All right. So those of us who still have warm weather can enjoy the easier movement. Circling the hips and noticing what happened this week in your body. I usually take my noticing, downward first into my legs and into my feet, the things that have to support me. And then when I turn the other direction, I take my noticing up the back and into the shoulders and neck. All right, and we're going to bring the feet together, bend the knees with the sense that the back is opening towards the back. So it keeps the pressure off the front of the knees and lets your back have a stretch, and then gently circling the knees. If there's been a lot of low back tension, you may kind of notice it here and think of this as a gentle stretch for your low back and a turning left to right in the low back. And then circling the other way. And then circle the opposite direction, the shoulders. Okay, so lifting up the crown, ear to the shoulder, nice easy turns. We've been focused lately on, stance work and the ability to turn the spine and, fold the hip. And so we're going to do a little bit of upper body strengthening, simply because if the upper body is doing its part to lift, the lower body is more free. So I'm going to turn the hand the opposite direction. Okay. So I'm going to bring my hand. So we're going to go right into the upper body Qigong. So, take a break if anything gets to be too intense. If you don't do these regularly, they can be a bit strong. So I'm going to bring my hands up in front of me, palms facing down. The shoulders are, the hands are parallel to the shoulders, the same level. And I'm going to press the heels of my hands forward and let one hand drop and the other hand elevate. And then when you get about, 30 to 45 degrees upward with the upper hand, start lifting from your feet to your crown. That really helps to open up the thorax, which helps to open up the shoulder joint. And then when you get to the top, just press up and down. And then relax. And slowly bring the hands back. And you want to feel the fascial stretch, so the underside of the arm through the palm heel of the hand. So letting one hand drop and the other one start to elevate and lengthen from your feet to your crown. long in your spine, adjusting your thorax, pressing above and pressing below. And just hesitate for a moment there so you can start to feel the back muscles working to hold your arms in this position. So it's not, it's you're bypassing the little area around your shoulder and going into your back. And try to be very steady, as though your hands were in two tracks and had to stay in those tracks. So dropping and lifting, and then raising the crown off the feet, letting the whole spine elongate, pushing up above, really pushing into the ceiling and then down into the floor. And wait till you can really feel the muscles across your back working. And then slowly release. Come back to the center, and one more time, let one drop and one lift, and then lengthen from the feet to the crown, full length of your spine, pushing up and down. You can also feel a little bit of the trying to bring the shoulder blades together, just so you can really feel the back holding up your arms in this position. And then slowly release. Okay, so if you don't have a lot of time, you can just do a couple of those very slowly and you'll get benefit. So the next one, we turn around to the side, we keep one hand planted. We have done these before, but the further instruction here is keep your hips facing forward as you turn your heart sort of to the side and your hand to the back. And if you don't get your hand all the way around to the back, that's totally fine. It's more important that the hips stay forward. And you feel the energy on the back of that shoulder, trying to keep the front of the shoulder really, really open. So it's a great therapy for all the forward hand, forward shoulder stuff that we do all week long. So I want to, bring energy to the back of that shoulder. So I turn, I keep that front hand really well planted. I keep the hips facing forward, and I turn through the spine, the heart sort of to the side, and then feeling the back of the shoulder really, really working. And you can push out through your shoulders, you're lengthening the tissue. So I'm also getting a fascial stretch while I'm building the strength of the back of the shoulder. And then slowly come back. And again, one on each side, and we keep the front hand rooted forward. Keep the hips forward, turning the spine, letting the heart shine to the side, and stop where your shoulder stops, and then just push out, push the hands out, and feel the work in the back of the shoulder. Feel the stretch in the front of your shoulder and the pec minor. And then slowly return. And then one more to the other side. Hips facing forward. Push the hands away from each other. Shoulders are down the back. Crown is up. Feel the work in the back of your shoulder. So for most of us, just doing those exercises a couple of times is going to reorient the shoulder so it's not so rolled forward. So I'm going to bend the elbows. I push the elbows a little bit forward. Palms are still facing the ceiling, and then lift the elbows up. I like to put the hands behind my head, feel my forearms cradle my head, and then just a little press of my head into my forearms, because it helps to wake up the upper thoracics and the cervicals. And then open up the elbows to the sides, and then reach out side to side. Forward. Bend the elbows, Push the elbows a little forward, palms are still up, lifting up towards the ceiling as well as you can. A little connection with your hands, a little press of your head into your forearms, feeling how that helps to wake up the upper thoracic. Open the elbows to the sides, and it's kind of like this is a whole like anti-slumping routine. Is the upper body, when we get tired, you start to slump and it becomes a habit, and those upper back muscles get weak and kind of overstretched. So we're adding energy there. We're bringing energy to that area. A little press of the head, lengthen from your crown to your feet. Roll the elbows out to the sides. Push the elbows first and then push the hands. Okay, so the second part of this is to do the sit and turn. So we bend the elbows and we lift again up. And then turn your foot out. And as you sit down, you want to sit evenly on your left and your right foot. Drop your elbows down and push out. You're looking out to the direction that you turned your foot. And then release to the center. This is called closed hands. So if you view this from the side, one hand is over the elbow area, where it's not touching, but it's the hands are aligned, but it's over the elbow area. So this closed hands for those of you to do further form. So I turn back, draw in and push the elbows down, and open the arms forward, and open all the joints. So we bend, drop the tail, lift the crown, lift the elbows, turn out the other foot. And as you sit down, put your weight down in the middle of both feet. So I don't have a bias to one foot. I'm sitting down in the middle of both feet, dropping my tailbone, dropping the elbows, pushing the hands out to each side, and then bringing the hands forward into a closed hands position. Bend the elbow, bring the elbows back, push forward. We will do one on each side. Lift, turn, sit, open, and then close to the front. And you'll notice that the more you get your body stretched out, the more the return to center feels like you're letting a rubber band come back to its natural length. But first I have to get stretched out to be able to feel that release. Turn the foot. I sit down in the middle of both feet and drop my elbows. Open the arms to both sides. And then let the hands come to the midline to close. And so I come back, bring my elbows in, and push the elbows down and the hands forward. So that kind of helps you with the flexibility that you need through the whole push hands part of your Tai Chi routine. Just look for letting your hands come down for a moment. So if you're moving through your week and you're really busy and maybe kind of stressed and your upper body's kind of curling and closing in, it's like your fascia becomes like brittle rubber bands that don't really expand, and they don't. An old rubber band doesn't expand far, and it doesn't contract or come back to its natural shape with any kind of life. So these exercises that Alex has developed is to get that stretchiness back to the fascia, so that when I ask for, a push and a pull back, when you push, you can reach that extension. And when you pull back, you can feel the return back of that rubber band naturally coming back to its shape. And you don't get that if you don't try to get the full length of your fascia and then let it return. You know, its elasticity will return. So adding to this, I'm going to just sit and hold the ball. We're going to do a turn of the back. So here I'm not in a big horse stance. I'm just in a good, you know, forward, toes forward stance. And the first part of this is to try to keep your hips really stable as you turn your back to the side as far as you are able without moving the knee off the toe or the hip, letting the hip fold. You want to keep the structure. So you only turn your spine as far as you can. Again, I'm trying to get all the rubber bands that connect my spinous processes together to wake up. So my hips are forward, my knees are forward, my spine turns, and I return. Hips are forward, knees are forward, I turn, and my spine returns. Hips are forward, knees are forward, I turn, and my spine returns. And we'll just stop there. The next one is to do a foot turn and the turn of the spine. So I'm turning my spine and my foot is turning out. I'm going to plant my foot. You know, most of you are going to be about, you know, 55, 60 degrees. You'll notice that your body, your foot and your body turn, and then you have to turn a little bit further to have the feet frame, the hands frame the foot. So it's body turn, upper body continues to turn, upper body releases, lower body returns. Okay, we do the other side. Whole body turn, upper body continues to turn, and that's where you get the psoas stretch. The upper body releases the rubber band, and the lower body comes back. Okay, so I'm going to turn the whole body. Continue to turn the upper body so the hands frame the foot. Feel the psoas stretch, keep the knee with the toe. Release the upper body and bring the lower body back with that energy. Turn. Continue to turn the upper body. That's where you get the psoas stretch. Release that upper body. And it's the energy returning. That's what helps you bring that lower body back in. So we're going to open. Fingertips back. Feel the back again. Slowly bring the hands in. Turn the palms down. And push and release. Okay, so that was getting the upper to be more springy. Now we're going to wake up the lower. So I'm just going to do the Qigong, the lower body Qigong from the side so you can see a little more easily. So I'm going to be in a channel and I'm going to open my legs, steady my lower belly. So just bring a little bit of firmness to it so that when I let my low back elongate and drop the tailbone into the ground. My knees bend to accommodate that. So it's not a knee bend in and of itself. It's a bend that accommodates the pelvis. And I bring my arms out to the sides, just like I just did. And bring my arms into roundness. And this time you're just going to try to keep the connection between your shoulder blades. So you're not holding your arms up just from the front of your shoulder, but you're feeling your back. And now we're going to do the back turn, but this time we get to do a slight hip fold, turning from side to side. So I get to warm up my legs, but I'm not leaving out my upper body anymore. The upper body is really involved. It's open enough. It's able to carry itself, and it's able to be part of this lower body warm up, right? So it's release the rubber bands of the spine, fold the hip, and turn so that the hands are framing the front foot. Release the spine, turn, fold the hip, and let the hands kind of frame the back foot. In other words, I just want to get a little bit more spinal rotation to the front, which is going to stretch the back hip. And when I rotate to the back, I'm stretching the front hip. Knee stays with the toe. I'm going to drop forward. So I get a low back stretch, and I'm sweeping across to the back foot. And so what I'm adding here is spinal flexion and extension. And then the rotation is happening as I'm bent over. Extension and flexion. Flexion is the forward. And travel across the back foot. Frame the foot, drop the tail, lift the heart, and drop down. So if you're kind of still and you're clear with what your upper body's doing, you're going to feel more intention in rotation in your hip joints. The hip joints are changing every time the upper body changes, moves over, flexes, or extends. I have to use the deep inside connection to my hip joint. I lift. I'm going to come back, and now we're going to side bend towards the back foot and then lift. So this is sort of combining those directions. And I lift because it's got extension and it's got falling into flexion and rotation front to back. So it's just like a big infinity. And it gives your low back some stretching and exercise. It gives your hips some exercise, and obviously the legs have to work to be able to hold you up in this position. If you want to really get a toned waist, keep your legs really stable. Yeah, I can fold my hip joints, but you want to keep your knees with your toes and do the directional movement with your waist, and your waist will get stronger and more toned, as well as your back. All right. Let's do one more to the back. And then as we are sitting on the back, just bring your hands to more level bowl holding position and come back. Okay, we're going to do the other side. So just step out into what your channel is, but lengthen your legs, open your arms. So every time you open your arms, you get a nice stretch through your chest, but you're waking up your back muscles, and you're saying, you guys have to work to hold this ball up. It can't be all on the front of the shoulder. It really wants to be the back. So I'm going to round in slowly. So almost like I'm pushing my elbows back as I'm bringing my fingers forward. So the back stays engaged in this position of my arms. And then I drop firmness at my lower dantian, lengthen my low back, and fold my knees only enough to accommodate the change in my pelvis. And then this is the straight horizontal rotation. That means I'm just taking my spine into rotation. My hip folds a little bit so I can put a little bit more weight forward. And then fold the back hip and put a little more weight back. But all the way I'm keeping the knees with the toes. So you feel the less you do outer movement, that's knee to toe to foot, moving your arms around, the more you're going to feel the internal, the more you're going to feel the inside of your hips, your psoas, your very low back. And that's kind of what we're targeting. We're strengthening the legs and we're strengthening the arms, but we're getting movement deep down in the hip joints and the low back. Okay, so then we're going to go down. That's flexion. Your low back's getting a stretch. And you sweep across in rotation in that downward position. And then over the front foot, you lift up and lift the heart. And then fold forward, open up your low back, sweep across, and lift up into extension, lifting the heart, opening the kidney, and then come across and lift the heart and open the kidney, and sweep across, lift the heart, and open the kidney. Okay, we're going to go to the front, and this time we come up. We're going to do the side bend. So you're just kind of making an infinity, how the ball or the ball shape, your arm shape is moving through space. Up on the front foot, side bend back. Up on the back foot, side bend forward. Keeping the knee really quiet with the toe. The quieter the knee is, the more work you have to do deep in the hip socket in the low back. And that's where we want to get the movement. So the internal is moving more. Even though you see this ball moving through space, I'm not doing anything with my arms. So the outer is actually quieter, and the hips and the low back are actually the more dynamic. Feeling the core waking up, supporting this movement. Okay, so we're going to come back. Okay, so having the spine lifted now and the chest more open and the back being able to be held up by its, own flexibility and lengthening, and the hips now lubricated and the legs woken up, then it becomes fun because half of it is just a free ride. So again, not just sinking. There's also this buoyancy that's built in conditioning the tissue to be able to lengthen to its full natural length and then release as a rubber band releases. Okay,